Hello, everyone. Warm welcome to the how-to, to the Berlinale Talents hard stage, as we say every now and then. And since it's already Wednesday, I allow myself to express an extra thanks to the Berlin audiences and also, of course, in particular to our talents. It has been quite a ride already, a wonderful ride with lots of mistakes making, lots of wonderful discussions, lots of lateral thinking and out of the box thinking. And this being said, I'm very happy that we have a session in collaboration again with one of the Berlinale sections, which is very close to our heart, very fond, and which is represented by a wonderful curator, which is Maike Mia Höhne. And we have a good tradition to have this session here in the middle of the Talents Week, and also with you guys and with wonderful guests. And I wish you a lot of out-of-the-box thinking and a lot of nice encounters for the next 90 minutes. Please welcome Maike Mia Höhne first. She will introduce us to a lovely guest. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, hello, a warm welcome, 69th edition of the Berlinale. Next year we're gonna celebrate. And we're going to celebrate together. I hope you come back. We have with us here Erika Lust, who, you raise your hands then. XConfessions.com. Who knows the page? Here we go. That's you. Who are you, Erika?
Not bad at
Not
all.
bad at all.
I'm super impressed with this audience. Who am I?
Yes, who are you?
Who am I? Well, I am Erika. I was born in Sweden. I'm 41 until next week when I will turn 42.
Okay, big party.
Yes, of course.
But not here. And not in Sweden?
No, because I moved to Barcelona almost 20 years ago. So in Barcelona, that's the place where I kind of stopped being just Erika, and I became Erika Lust. And I was thinking that I'm so happy for this invitation because I know that all of you, that you are big lovers of cinema, of course. It's incredible to be in a room with so many people who adore cinema. And the funny thing is that I'm here to talk to you about a genre that we don't talk about that much, actually.
You are so right.
It's a genre that many, many people love. Yes. Many people use, of course. And at the same time, it's a genre that makes us uncomfortable somehow. It's a genre that we don't talk about that much in society, together with other people. It's a genre that is highly stigmatized, marginalized, and that we have this behavior around, like, what are you watching? Nothing. We don't want to tell anybody that we are actually watching it. Still, we do. And I really, really believe that we have a need to take this conversation out of our loneliness and into bigger rooms, and that we need to start talking about what pornography somehow has become. And I mean, if I tell you a little about my story, like how I started, how I decided to become this Erika Lust person that I am today, it started on a very personal level for me. I was a young student back in Sweden. I was studying political science at Lund University. I don't know if we have anybody from Lund here today. No one.
I was about to say, everyone raised his hand, no. No one.
But I was there, and I think I have a story to share that many probably will feel that has happened to them also. I was a young student, I had a boyfriend, and one day he came to my little student room with a DVD in his hand And it wasn't a Berlinale film, it was a porno. And
That was for the very first time.
it wasn't the first time, because the first time was even before that. The first time, I was just a teenager. I think I was 12 or 13, and a friend of mine had decided to have a pajama party, and she invited a little group of girls, and we were watching a film with popcorn, and then after that film, she said she had another surprise. And she had found in her father's drawer
Another film.
a video cassette, because it's way back
Yeah,
then,
it's way back then.
that he had taped from, this television night shows.
Yes.
And she put it on, and I can still remember that feeling of, wow, what are we gonna watch? This is gonna be so exciting, oh my God. And then watching it and just feeling like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? And the feeling was that we wanted that we wanted to understand sex, because that was really what we were after, We were at that age where you're starting to feel everything in your body, and the butterflies and all of that. And instead of being impressed of these images and starting to fantasize about it, it just looked pathetical. It looked bad. It was badly done, and it was, this classical films kind of from the beginning of the 90s, very pneumatic women. There in very tight dresses with very blonde hair and very long nails.
Yeah, don't go into the detail.
Yeah, but you get it. The feeling. The feeling. So that was my first disappointment with porn. But then, of course, I was a kid. I didn't think much about it. I grew up in Sweden. I had the wonderful chance to have really good sex education, which is probably something that we will talk more about, because it always comes up when we talk about porn, because sadly enough, porn has become sex education today. But in my school, I had sexologists coming to our schools, talking to us, and not only about the practical things about sex, not only about how do you put a condom on a banana, not only, about all the risks and the STIs that's out there and how you can get pregnant and that kind of stuff. No, they also really talk to us about the emotions and about the feelings. They talk to us about sexuality in a very open way. They talk to us about gender roles. They talk to us about sexual identity. These things that are keys to understanding your sexuality, really. And I think that was part of the great advantage that I had growing up, that made me become an open-minded, kind of sexually liberated woman at an early age. Yes. Because to be completely honest with you as an audience, it wasn't my parents. They didn't do the job.
But did you ever talk with your parents about it?
Not much.
Not much. It wasn't.
Not much. It was around, but we never really. I think my parents really kind of trusted the system.
Oh, which is, in this sense,
which worked in this way. But obviously, if you think about other countries with other possibilities where they don't have this kind of sex educations, it's disastrous if you don't have adults around you.
And parents.
Who dare to have this kind of conversations.
Yes, but right, then we have porn.
Yeah, and then what happens? Of course, they turn to porn. Everybody turned to porn, because we are sexual human beings. We were born because people had sex. That's amazing when you start thinking about it, right? I am here Because my parents, these people that didn't talk so much to me about it, they actually had sex. That's why I exist, you know. So actually, I mean, sex should be one of the most natural things to us, and still, we are so full of shame. What are you watching? Nothing. It's horrible. It's sad. It's really, really sad. Yeah. I am a talker, so you're gonna hear me go on and go on. But I wanted to go back to that dorm room, if you remember when I started
when your
to
boyfriend
talk
came
about.
with the
We
DVD.
had the boyfriend, we had the DVD, and I was this liberated young Swedish woman already interested in sex. So he came with this DVD, and I said, yeah, let's try it, you know? I really felt that I want to try this. I want to see what it's all about, kind of. And then we put it on. And what happened to me at this time was that, of course, I got horny. I really, really felt how my body, you know, felt, it's coming, I like it. But at the same time, again, these kind of images that I felt that
You were not part of them.
I was not part of them. I was not part of them. And then we kind of, you know, we watched more. I felt uncomfortable with it somehow. I didn't really feel good. It was like a conflict there, conflict between my head and my body, right? But at the same time, I kind of felt, but there must be something else. But the more I watched, I kind of felt that it was always the same structure. The women were used somehow as these beautiful objects or as these tools to satisfy the men. But so few times I actually found movies where I felt that the story was about us.
But now you already skipped something. So you had this night, just to understand how you got into the business. This was this one night, you felt this conflict in between here and there. And then you still were interested in these films. Did you talk with your boyfriend by the time about it?
I was stubborn, and I was still interested, and I wanted to explore more about my sexuality because I felt that there was something there, you know, something that was worth it somehow, you know. And I did talk to my boyfriend, and I did talk to many other of my friends, and when we started to talk about it, the funny thing was that most men that I had around me, they were okay with porn. They did, of course, watch it regularly. They had never really thought about the problematics that I was, you know, bringing up. They never really saw that. But most women I was talking to, they had exactly the same feeling as I had, that something was missing out, that it was not really for us somehow.
But still, I mean, and then we come to the form as well, no, because a long feature-length porn doesn't make any sense. It only makes sense in the first 7 to 10 minutes, and then it gets you on this very, I don't know how to say it, deep level in terms of you get horny, because it's, you see it and you want it, you know, something, you react to it. But then after 5-7 minutes, you get into the more intellectual part, because then this first phase of being horny has passed. And then it comes to the moment, oh yeah, where are the role models? What is happening? You know what I mean? Like, this is also interesting in terms of how they work.
And how the body is connected somehow.
Yes.
Because obviously we are not only our sexual organs.
No.
We are much more. But it feels to me sometimes that so much of the porn that's out there is just made for, you know, a quickie somehow. It has no other ambition. Yeah. And then I was a student of political science, so I was already into, you know, gender studies. I was already into power structures. I was trying to break down things, analyze them, deconstruct them, all that kind of thinking. And I went to my dear friend Google, and I started to look for more information about pornography. And then I found this wonderful professor called Linda Williams from Berkeley. She was a film professor. And I found this book called Hardcore, the power what is it called? Hardcore, the frenzy of the visible, I think. Pleasure and power and the frenzy of the visible. Okay?
From Berkeley.
If you want to Google. And when I started to read this book, it became very, very clear to me that porn actually was so much more than just porn. Because I had always kind of thought that it's just, it doesn't matter, it's just porn.
You
But
understood the industry.
sorry?
You understood the industry behind it. Yes.
I understood the industry, and I understood that it was actually discourse about sexuality and about, sexual behavior and gender roles and how we kind of meet up there on the screen. And then I got more interested and I got into understanding the fact that how did the industry work? And the industry was completely androcentric. It was dominated by men. It was men, doing the films, the production, the ideas, the direction, distributing them, marketing them to the audiences, watching them. So we were kind of, as women, excluded from the whole genre. I found one director, a female director called Candida Royale. Okay. So someone in the audience thought that we needed a little action, I guess, and it came, and now it's just popping up, and we need to stop it, I think. But so what you have seen was a teaser from my project, XConfessions, and the idea with that teaser was to give you, who have never watched my films before, an idea about what they actually looks like, because otherwise we talk a lot, but if you don't see, you don't really understand. And now
Perhaps we can still just because I think it's important to understand your way into the business, because it's one of the most powerful industries, and as you said, it's been dominated through men for decades, since the beginning of cinema, actually. And so I understand your interest a lot. I think it's basic because something is missing out in society for many, many years. Us, our power, our bodies, our desire. There's so few images also about female desire. What is the way I like it, my partner to be seen or however. So you got into the industry. How were your steps into the industry? Because it's not easy. You were studying political science, as you said. Perhaps the best way to make movies, come from the other side. But what did you do?
No, it's kind of a long story, actually, kind of how it happened from me being, a student of political science, interested in this, till the moment where I actually decide to do my first short film. In this process, what happened was that I moved down to Barcelona at the beginning because I wanted to learn Spanish. I went down there. I completely fell in love with the city, still living there. And I realized that I had a very hard time finding a job. And then I had friends working in the audiovisual industry. Most of them were in advertisements. Some were doing movies, television, etc. And I was a young woman. I was talking a few languages. I was ambitious, and I had a driving license. So I was hired as a runner. That's how it started. I was hired as a runner for a production company, and I think I just kind of realized how much I loved the sets and how much I loved the idea of making films. I had always been a huge film fan, but I had never ever thought that I was going to be able to work in cinema. For me, that was an impossible dream. So I started working. I advanced from runner to production assistant, from production assistant to production manager, to location manager, and so it went on. And then I felt that I had all these creative ideas and energy that I wanted to explore myself. I think it's kind of, it comes to you when you are around so many other people doing things. So I started to take film classes. And that was in that process that I had an opportunity to make a short film, as many of you probably had, and you had to face, the creativity you have, and what should I do? Of course, all of us, we sit down and we think, I want to do something really special. I want to do something that matters. And when I asked myself those questions, I said, female sexuality. That's what I want to do. And then I got even a little more daring with myself, and I said, porn?
Feels like porn.
Maybe. And then I started to play around with the word, and I'm like, so if I call it like indie, if I do, like I do an erotic film, I do an indie adult film, I do something different, but I do it with my values. And I wrote a script, and I made The Good Girl. It was a short film, 22 minutes, I think, and I made it in 2004. And that was how I entered. It was an experiment, really, for me. I never had imagined that I would be up here with you today talking about this film. And then I put it online.
And it wasn't difficult to get people working with you, wasn't it?
It, of course, was difficult. Of course, it was difficult. And the biggest challenge for me was to find the performers, because I didn't know people. I didn't know actors who were working in the adult industry, so I had to ask around, and then I found a friend of a friend who was an editor and who did know someone who said, call this person, and I did. And then in the end, I did find 2 wonderful performers, and it turned out well.
And you put it online?
I put it online. This was 2004. If you imagine internet at that time, there was no social media. There was not free online porn out there. Internet was a place where blogging had become very popular, so I started a blog. That was my idea. I wanted to talk about feminism, sexuality, film, etc. And I put up my film there. And just in a few weeks, I had 2 million downloads. Like, it got viral. Somehow it got viral. People started to tell people, there's this little film, go and watch it. And they started to write to me. And most of the emails were saying, hey, Erika, I love your film. When are you going to make more?
Super.
It's a beautiful story when you tell it, really. I still feel emotional about it. And that's when I sat down with my partner, and we were talking, and we were saying, maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe we could, maybe we could
generate work.
Yes.
Was it already in this first movie that you also discovered that the working space you were creating, I don't know where you worked, in your private house or in a studio you rented?
In our private house in Barcelona. Yeah.
So was it already there that you thought about the conditions that you have to create, that they have to be differently, or you know what I mean, like the production space?
Mm-hmm. Well, those thoughts have always been part of who I am, because it's the way I think that we need to behave in all spaces around us. I think we need to be very careful and respect people. And obviously, I was going to shoot a movie where people were going to have explicit sex. So I had to think about it. I had to, sit down and think, like, how am I going to handle this situation? And even if I was, a young Swedish liberated woman, it still felt very daring to me. And now when I look back at that first shooting, I realized that I was probably much more nervous than I wanted to understand at that time, because I had never like watched people having sex in front of me filming them before. No.
Okay.
Now I
Was
watch
it
many.
sexy?
It was, but I think that it was so much thanks to the actors, really,
Yes.
to these performers who became, friends with each other and who really had, the best chemistry in the world. So that really helped me.
I'm laughing inside because, just a quick excerpt, but as I started out as a filmmaker as well, and one day a friend of mine comes up, and it was the period when series started to be very fancy, like beginning of the mid of this 0 years. And she came home and said, like, I have a series for us. And I said, yes. And she said, for Beate Use. You sell your work there. This is like this one of the porn or adult channels, private adult channel. I said, yes, super, because, of course, yes, we do that. And then we had this talk to the editor, and I said, oh yeah, we already have a great scene, She is standing here, and the men are painting the wall, and then they get undressed, because I love this, and put on men. And he was sitting there, great scene, but actually it's for men, so it's vice versa. It's the woman get naked, men looking at the woman. I said, okay. Basically, what happened in this, we wrote the scripts. I had, I think, the best conversations about scripts ever. Never ever again like this, accurate and thinking about where is she, how can we handle it, super. But then in terms, we also said, of course, we as both as women writers said, we want to direct it. We want to direct this series. The men came in with the technique. So of course the DOP was the director because he had the technique. And that, changed everything. Still, when you made your first film, so the idea, as you were aware of what is gender policy and rethinking the genders, and the gaze is so important. So did you work with a women DOP?
Actually not, because I didn't find one. I had a male DOP, and I'm remembering feeling very, very nervous about communicating, because, and I still, it's one of the things I'm doing today in my shootings is that I have a huge part on my head, on my people are women, and that creates a whole other atmosphere in the room. At the first movies that I was shooting, we had more men in the crew. I think it's very normal because there are more men out there still today, and especially back then. And the way that many of them were communicating was very technical and very excluding of people not having all the technical knowledge.
It's a very common strategy of excluding people on the set. You are first time on the set, I have been here for longer, I say a certain sentence, you don't understand, you're out. That is a very typical strategy, I guess. I don't know why it's been used, but it's been used.
It's a way of...
I know, of imposing yourself,
of
but
imposing yourself,
it's a little boring.
Saying, hey, I am important, you know nothing, right?
Yes.
But what I had was a female camera operator. And she really helped me to get into, the understanding of the technical aspects. So I think thanks to her, it worked out much better than it would have done otherwise.
Because then, besides of the technical aspects, which are very important, because, okay, you have to lay down, first blowjob, no, what's the way we can do it, how did you start to create this, and I guess perhaps in the first movie not too much, but throughout the years, what do you need to create an atmosphere that you feel safe and the actors feel safe, and also the technique feels safe and not embarrassed or, like laughing? What do you do?
Well, we have a lot of preparation. It already starts in pre-production. It already starts when we have a first idea for a script. Pictures are coming up, I see. We got rid of those free tube sites that I was going to talk to you about. We'll get back to that in a little while because I think it's very, very important to talk about it. But let's talk a little about this first. So what do we do? Well, I work together with a talent manager that is hired in my office, and we do interviews with performers regularly to get to know them, to really get to know who they are, what they like, what is their sexuality.
Because they apply, I guess.
Because they apply, yeah. Exactly. I also work with some of the performers that are active in the industry that comes back, and I already kind of know them, but then we always have these newcomers. And in that process, it is extremely important to make sure who they are, you know? Because one of the policies in the adult industry has kind of been to hire an agency and that they are doing the casting. But if you work with that system, you don't get to talk to the actors. You don't even get to know the actors. They just show up at the set. And I think that is a way of working that would never work out for me, because I really need to trust the people, and I need them to know that they can trust me. So 2 years ago, I started to work with Kali, my talent manager. She is also present on sets today, because that makes a huge difference for the actors when they know that they have a person that they can talk to about everything that is going on, from, you know, their diets or their needs of transport, or, you know, they have a problem with a set partner or with someone in makeup or whatever. But there's always a person that they know has them as their first priority. Then what we have is a document called Performers' Bill of Rights. The idea with this document is to make sure that all the performers know what are their rights, really. What can they ask from us, but also what are they expected to do.
Yeah, super.
And when I work with guest directors, which is another part of my project, because for XConfessions, I am not the only director making films. I also work with a group of guest directors, and as some of them have not worked with sexual, intimate content before, it's very important to make sure that they understand what is needed of them, because otherwise there's a risk that they will prioritize their creative visions and the technical aspects of the film they want to do, but not really understanding the human aspect of sexual performance, of sex work.
Now me again, step back, and now you meet your family, your parents. How do you talk about it?
Well, with my parents, we don't talk too much about it. I mean, my mother, when she found out what I was doing, she actually...
In Spain, far away.
I was in Spain, she was up in Stockholm, she called me, and her exact words was, "I helvete gör du, Erika?"
Okay, what are you doing on the rest?
What the hell are you doing, Erika? You know?
And you said, what?
And I said, whew.
Mama, I have to go.
Exactly.
Sorry, bye.
I don't know, I have no connection. No, I obviously had to face the situation. I knew that it was gonna come, and it did. And today we have a relationship where they obviously know what I'm doing, they accept it, they are kind of proud that it's going so well for me, that we are doing so well. But still, sometimes we have this kind of relationship where I feel that in her heart, she doesn't really
would like you
understand
to be a
100% what it is.
professor, yes.
Exactly. For example, I saw an example the other day on Instagram. She opened an Instagram account, and I did see that she's following my sister and like Swedish royalty and famous people, but she's not following me, you know. So there is this huge stigma out there, and we need to be aware of it, you know. And sometimes, I mean, for me, I've been working with this now for many years, and it feels very natural, and it feels like, why do we have all this stigma? But then I start to remember that for most people, porn is what's out there on these 3 tube sites. It's not the vision that me and my crew and my team are doing. We are just, you know, a small little niche, a small little corner of the whole adult industry.
How does the adult industry look like today?
Let me show you what it looks like. Can we go back to those slides? Blah, 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 blah. And we'll find it. Here we go. So what does the adult industry look like? I don't know how much porn surfing you are doing, but if you've done some, you probably know that there's something called free tube sites, and then there's some other sites called paid sites. The free sites, they look basically like this. There's a red circle there because if you read the text, you're going to start asking yourself, how can this be acceptable? BBC destroys tiny Asian. Is this racist? I believe it is. Tiny blonde screams
it's the
as she
power
gets...
thing. It's about the power, what we see here.
Yes.
Is it racist or not? But it means like someone is being abused, and this basically makes you horny.
Yeah.
So-
And then we have the paid site. Of course, they look better aesthetically, let's say. They have better light,
Yes,
better
but it's the
photography.
same wording.
But it's the same kind of content. Look at this site. This is something called blacked.com. The whole meaning, the whole idea of this site is that small, tiny white women are getting fucked by big black men.
But it's in 4K at least. So,
and we keep on going, and all we see women, we see body parts, we see breast, we see ass, we see faces with cum, and then you ask me, what does the industry look like? Okay, so these are the kind of images that's out there, but then the funny thing is here that almost all of these images, they are owned by the same company.
interesting.
I call it big porn. And it's not so different from big pharma or from big food. I don't know if you heard about this kind of concept before. But if you look at it, only a bunch of super powerful companies dominate the pharmaceutical industry. That's the reality where we live today. Only a bunch of super powerful companies dominate the food industry. They are the owners of all these brands. And for the internet, there are basically 4 big companies out there showing us their visions and their values. And when it comes to porn, we are talking about 1 company, guys. So all this that we call porn, and everybody thinks, oh, porn is like amateur, it's done by so many different people. It's not. It's dominated by a monopoly, by 1 company from Montreal. It's based in Montreal, Canada, and they are the owners of almost all of the tube sites that you are watching. It was started by a German guy. It's not this guy. Huh?
He looks so cute.
Poor John Ronson, I would say. This is John Ronson here. I can recommend to you, if you want to understand how the porn business works today, there's a wonderful podcast called The Butterfly Effect. And it will tell you in details the story of this company, MindGeek. They will tell you the story of how Fabian bought 1 company in the adult industry, and then he started to upload and steal, of course, free porn online. And the effect of that was that other companies dropped, and then when the other companies dropped, he bought them up. So now he is the owner of almost all the tube sites. He's the owner of many studios. He even bought Playboy. He bought the whole industry, kind of. He owns 80% of what porn is today. I was expecting another one, but let's go for...
No, but this means if you say it's 80%, of course, and it's dominated and it's been spread, the word is spread out. So the difficulty is where to jump into and how do you find your place and how can you insist in your place, no? And how can you sell, how can you live from that?
How can you create something different, an alternative? And that's really what I think that we and others who are in this kind of indie adult cinema, this little genre we belong to somehow, that we are trying to do. If we look at the relevance, for example, in the last year we had around 2 million visitors. It's not bad at all. It's a big number, good, right? Yeah. It's wonderful, you think, but then you compare it to one of the tube sites out there, Pornhub, the biggest one. They had 35,000 million visitors. So what we are talking about here is that, yes, we are doing an alternative, but it's very difficult to get the word out. And especially as when you work in something adult-related, we are so censored. And we have so many difficulties to face. We even had problems opening a bank account. What? Yes, opening a bank account. We have a business going on. We have a business with 2 million visitors. That must be an interesting business for a bank to wanting to have that account, right? But the values in our society are so anti-sex, and the porn is so stigmatized. So it's becoming difficult, even to make a business out of it online. We are not allowed to use PayPal. Many people don't know that. They say, but why don't you use PayPal? We're not allowed to use PayPal.
But how do the others work? If I go on Pornhub.com or on the paid sites, they also must have a certain model of that I can pay them, no?
Credit cards, but then we get into the credit cards business, and what happens there, that the percentage that they are asking for every sale is around 15%. It's very expensive. That is the reason why the porn that you pay for, if you do, is expensive. So there's a lot of other people on the way getting the money.
How do you do it now?
How do we do it? Well, in our case, what we have done is that we have created somehow a community, an audience. We created this project called XConfessions. It's a crowdsourced project. People from all around the world are sending in their fantasies. We are making films. They are becoming members. And that's the way we can kind of finance our filmmaking and our films. But then it's very difficult also with other suppliers. I don't know if you are familiar with something called MailChimp. It's a newsletter service. We got kicked out. We were not allowed to use it because we are an adult company.
I get really angry. No.
Yep, and I can make you even more angry. No. Because the thing in this case is that online censorship is dictated by private tech companies. They are private companies, most of them American, of course, American values, and their model is helping to perpetuate toxic masculinity, and this is what's happening. This guy, this is Instagram, if you don't know it. This guy is one of the stars on Instagram. His name is Dan Bilzerian. He shows this kind of images, and for Instagram, this kind of images are completely acceptable. You see that it covered up the nipples, so we are good with this one. Here you can't see nipples either, even here, they nicely putting a hand. You can't see anything, but these images are, to me, obviously chauvinistic images, right? This kind of content is okay on YouTube, This kind of content is okay on Vimeo. Now we're talking about Vimeo. But then I had an account on Vimeo that was quite successful. I was showing teasers like the one you have seen here today, for example. And then I got an email, and they said, thanks for following up. I passed this along to my team, and we have all reviewed your account again, but our previous decision stands. Your account will be removed for violating our policies. And then, while non-sexual nudity is allowed, the content in your account is not within our policies, especially videos that depict touching or stimulating in bathing suit areas.
I'm really...
Bathing suit areas, what are we talking about? Are we kids? Can we use normal language at least here? You know, then we are talking about the Instagram. You've seen this picture, right? It was out in the press last year. This got censored. It was too much for Instagram. Can't show it. And now you see beautiful pictures, and you would say, why are these pictures censored? I don't get it. You can see a little pubic hair down there, you know? That's not okay. If you shave, well, up here you see it easily. But if you shave, if you put yourself in a bikini or you shave, then it's perfectly fine if you have pubic hair or not. This kind of image, it's not okay. Why? Because it's two people naked, engaged in sexual activity, Instagram says. So you can't show it. This is our beautiful image for a film that we are releasing soon with a couple. They are 72 and 74. I think it's amazing to see people from another generation.
Erika, basta.
Yeah.
Question. I mean, if you are a change maker, I mean, we need these images. I think this is a perfect image of how we can, I mean, we want love. Don't we talk about love all the time? Isn't it that what we are talking about? We need love.
What drives us?
Hollywood is doing love movies all the time, and people are longing for this because, of course, they have situations, as you have it at home, that you cannot talk on a certain level with your parents, especially your mother, which is interesting. Or, you know, same for me, same for most of us, that, of course, there are moments where we would love to be close and we are not, so our longing goes towards, Hollywood helps us to get this longing, and we cry, you know. How can we change the world that this is accepted? I mean, this is ridiculous. Do we need Angela Merkel to sit here?
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
That would be fantastic.
We need to invite her. We need to start really spreading the word about what is going on. Because then the problem that we are facing now is, okay, so you are helping me here. You are giving me a voice. I am one of the few people in the indie adult industry who has a voice, who are invited to events and who can go out and can talk to people. But most people, they are completely stigmatized. They are shadow banned. That is a concept that I don't know if you know either. Shadow banning means basically that you are allowed to have an account, but then they control the content and the images on your account so nobody sees them. Kind of, because they don't want anyone to say that we are being kicked out, because then they go like, oh, no, this is not good policy. So they just shadow ban you. For example, I'm on Twitter, I have an account. If you follow me, you will see my content. If you don't follow me and you start searching for Erika Lust, I won't show up. That's shadow banning.
I mean, yeah.
No, it's tiring, and
it is very tiring because it's coming again and again and again. And what we're talking about, basically, it's about we talk about power, and we talk about the power of showing certain images, and of course, and we are here in a film festival with a certain power. That is the reason why I wanted you to be here, because we have the power to show that we think what you do is more than important, but necessary for change, because. One thing is, if we speak about porn and lust, is me, myself, and I, and there is this certain industry that, you know, for the male audience, for gay audience. When I discovered you, what struck me out, and when we started to talk, and we basically started talking in the beginning, was like that you said, it's for us. it's for couples, it's for more people. It's not only for me, myself, and I. And I thought that was a very interesting point as well, because if we speak about, and watching this image, we speak about love, we speak about something, what you mentioned in the beginning of the 0 years, an ambition, something else. You know, sex is more. Sex is more.
And I think that is really the kind of the bottom line of what I want to do in my films. I don't only want to show you what sex looks like, because I think we've seen that, we kind of know it. I want to show you what it feels like having sex, you know? I want to communicate that strong emotion of having sex. And I want to present to you kind of characters that you can relate to. Not only, you know, the penetrative sex machine and the bimbo blow-up girl. No, people you can relate to. People that feels like people around you.
Yes, but you do it really because I think that makes your work special. Because the industry, there are some, you know, indie people in it.
Yes, of course.
We have our colleague here who works for the festival, does the pre-selection for the Panorama documentary films for many, many years. And he's a porn producer for many, many years too. So he runs the Berlin Porn Festival that has been the first of its kind, I think. I moderated there very much pregnant in the first year. That was very much fun. Because, you know, then audience like this, watching porn, short porns.
And I was there having a baby.
You were having a baby?
I had my little daughter with me. She was 3 months
And
the first time I went to... Yes! Oh my God! That would have been a wonderful meeting.
Okay, now session ended, we have to go out. No.
But this is also funny what we are talking about now, because we're getting into something that I think is very interesting, and I think it has to do with how we separate sexuality.
Yes.
We take it out from life and we put it in a little box and we say, that's so delicate that we can't deal with it the same way as we are dealing with everything else. Why? We need to deal with sex the way we are dealing with other things. We need to include it in our movies. We need to talk about it. And you can be, you know, we are all perverts. We all have this, you know, sexual ideas and fetishisms and the things that are driving us. But you can be a strong sexual person, and then you can, you know, go home and you can make a dinner for your parents or take care of the homework together with your daughter. Or, you know, we have to allow ourselves to be full human beings.
And this is where your work changes also, because you include people. You don't exclude, you include.
And the way we are, I mean, of course, there is diversity in porn. It's not the question that porn is not showing diversity. There are people of all races and all bodies and all ages and all of that.
But in these categories and tabs that we just saw, yes.
Exactly. It's the way they are doing it, the fetishization of people. Instead of the humanizing, instead of just, you know, letting us explore. Do you have,
I think you have a small video about the way you work with people on intimacy on the set. If you don't mind, we could have a look at it.
Which one should we look at the making of, or should we look at the intimacy video?
I think the intimacy thing is interesting.
Let's look at a video. It's about an intimacy coach and how she works with actors on set. Ita O'Brien. And I think that this is a trend that is going on at this moment. We saw it a few years ago with HBO. They started with the series The Deuce. They didn't really know how to deal with this sexually charged situation, so they got the coach for it. Ita O'Brien, she worked with Netflix now on sex education, and it's also a situation where lots of young people are simulating, because of course they are not having explicit sex, but they are simulating sex. And let's watch the video and then we talk about it.
Yeah. This looks spectacular. It looks like a perfect world. It looks like I would love, you know, my whole surrounding be like that. And now we have some people out there and they say, oh no, this, you know, if everything is PC, this is ridiculous. You know, this is, where's the energy? There's no energy left. This will not be a good movie? How can we live like this? You know what I mean? This kind of...
I know what you mean, and we all heard the stories. I mean, we heard the stories of directors working without consent. Last Tango in Paris. I mean, it's a really sad situation, how things were going on back then. And there's even other cases where we are not talking about we're not talking about abuse, but we are talking about actors feeling and actresses feeling very insecure and very unpleased with the jobs that the directors have done, because this is, as always, most of the directors are men, most of the crew members around them are men. And there's cases, for example, like La Vie d'Adèle. That is a movie that I really, really like. I love the way that they show the sex on screen. I think it's beautiful, but then when you really hear the testimonies of the actresses about the shooting, how it went by, they're not very happy with the treatment.
But you have a man very close to you. Pablo, it's your husband, it's the father of your children, you're having a family, you have children together, you kind of have a certain discourse, I guess, in between the two of you. How do you deal with this situation? Has there ever been a situation that you said, I see myself as a man being disregarded, or I would, like what I mean, like, if there are too many female people around, perhaps then the film's gonna lack energy, because I insist on this energy and power, because this is where the world we're living in. And if we come back to the Berlin Film Festival in terms of the feature-length films we're gonna see, most of them, the rape scenes, I mean, Fatih Akin just now has another film in competition where women, get slaughtered, and I have to watch this for hours. But the world, I mean, the world we live in, it's you go online on Netflix and all you see are women being raped and kidnapped and destroyed and murdered, and it's... Would it be interesting to have one of your films in competition?
Of course it would. Please take one. But it's difficult to even get there. Once I sent a short film to the Cannes Film Festival, and within an hour I got back the application. They told me that they didn't even want to watch the film. So it's difficult when you come from, when my name is associated to pornography.
But you can work with a synonym, Erika, what is your real name?
Yeah, but why do I need to do that?
No,
why can I not be accepted for what I do and who I am? And I mean, of course, I think I have every possibility in the world of both doing the genre that I'm working with, that is a genre made to excite you and to turn you on with that ambition. That's my ambition for these films, for XConfessions, for example. But at the same time, I think I could be completely able also to make a film with other ambitions where sex could be involved, but maybe the main
the main storyline is something else. But I think this is also because all the setup, in the end, pornography is, as you said in the beginning, your boyfriend or your girlfriend comes home and you watch a movie together. Okay, mostly at home or somewhere else, but not in the cinemas. I'm always dreaming of this kind of cinema where, even in a normal film, which turns you on and then you can have sex in the cinema. These cinemas are gone.
A private little booth in there, or maybe out in the big room.
Still, the question is like, how can you, with your expertise, your knowledge, your, outstanding work, contribute and be part of this other industry and enhance them to get tools? Is there something that we can do as a festival?
Well, you can definitely help me to spread the word that it exists. And we can, I think all of us together, we can start talking more about porn, but not in the sense only of saying porn is shit, I don't care about it, but saying there's lots of things that I see online that I don't agree with those values.
So it's talking about desire. No, I mean, porn is one thing. I think porn is already in a corner. But if we talk about sexuality and you show us these kind of images, the Insta images, and this woman being like this, and having something here, then this is also something that we have to change. How can we change these images? Are there any ideas from the audience? I would like to open up to you guys if you have any questions, ideas, recommendations.
Love it.
We have some mics here here she is. Yeah, here is a question in the middle.
Hello. There's a lot of directors in talents this year. I'm a director too, and
Sorry, excuse me.
Here,
Can you stand
I'm
up?
here.
Ah, yeah,
Sorry.
thank you.
And I'm wondering, because many of us do movies including intimate scenes and sex scenes, or things like that, but we don't have intimacy directors, or we don't have people who are professionals in this. I'm from Slovakia. It's a small country. There's nobody who do this. So what would you recommend to people who make movies, how to do it by ourselves, or where to search for help like this?
Well, first of all, if you're going to make a movie where intimacy, advanced intimacy is involved, inform yourself as much as possible. You can, even if you can't afford to get an intimacy coach, maybe you can read at least an article to find out how they work and what they are doing. You can watch an interview. You can maybe make a telephone call. Maybe she will talk to you and help you. What I can give you, for example, is my guidelines that I give to my guest directors. Of course, now we're talking about guidelines for shooting explicit sex, but you can obviously read them and apply them to intimacy situations also. Yes, and after today, if you go online, you can find all this information. So you can download it directly. So you can watch this video again that we watched, this even a little longer, and you find those document the guidelines.
So this is also very interesting. You don't hide with your knowledge. You don't hide your knowledge.
No, I want
You
to share it with the world.
Yes, here you go.
I want all of us to start dealing with sexuality in a normal way, the same way as we deal with other emotions. I want us to include it. And I want women to dare to do it, because I think that our visions have not been seen. Even if we go to indie cinema, which is the genre where more or less, there are these films including a sexually emotional part of a character, but most of those films are made by men again, and they deal normally with a very dark side of sexuality. And I think it's also important to start dealing with a more sex-positive side of our sexuality.
You have two girls, if I may say.
I have.
Wonderful, beautiful girls. And one is turning 12, as we just figured out. How do you talk with her?
Well,
have she seen your movies?
No, I don't watch my movies. I'm not gonna push my movies on my girls. When they get older, of course, they will have access. But what I've done since they were very, very young is that we have always talked about sex. We have never excluded sex from the conversations. When we have gone to exhibitions, for example, we have seen erotic photography. I never felt that, I have to hide their eyes. They can't watch this kind of images. Of course, I'm not showing explicit images to them, but erotic images, I see absolutely no problem. We talked. I've never been this kind of mother that shamed my daughters, because this is something that I think many of you recognize. When kids are small, they start, finding out about their own bodies. They start touching themselves. They start masturbating.
Yes.
Exactly. It's masturbation. That's
Absolutely.
what it is. They're touching themselves. They're figuring out, what is this?
And they are sitting together. Opening and masturbating and talking.
Free as we are, actually,
Yes.
But then there's,
Okay, let's sit down.
normally there's a parent, many times it's a mother saying, don't do that. And that is the first sexual shame we have in our lives, you know? And then you understand that, of course, this area is something that I should hide, that I should not do. I think it's much better to communicate with them, to saying, you know, that feels good, right? But maybe you should not do it in the living room in front of grandma. Maybe you go to your room, you know? Like in a natural way, but not shaming, not saying, don't do it, don't touch yourself, you know, this is wrong. That's the first shame we have in our lives.
I'm just laughing because I have a small boy too. So we are lying, you know, on bed and, you know, for nighttime, and he's naked, of course, because he loves to be naked. He's all the time naked, everywhere. So he's lying there, and he says like, Mom, lick. Yeah, because he knows, I don't know why, but I think he has the impression it could be nice. And, you know, my girl is lying next, looking, and I'm like, okay, fast. I'm saying like, you know what, I think this is for later. And he's like, what do you mean? And my girl also like, what do you mean? And then I'm like, you know what, this is later when you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, then you're gonna do that. And I see my girl doing this in her mind. Aha, okay, here we go. This might be part of something that she is already into it. Okay. And then we kept on reading. But, you know, it was an interesting moment also for myself, okay, because it's what you say, if I say only no, then why? Because they, you know, they are open, they want to understand. So if I say no, then there is this secret. And there is no secret, but there is sometimes not the right moment in the sense of, it's not my duty to lick his dick. I think so. But I mean, I could do it, but I don't think so.
But I mean, when you have kids, obviously, those are challenging moments. Things comes up and you are not prepared. You'd never thought about it before. And suddenly you go like, who am I as a person? Am I sex positive or am I sex negative?
No, I'm
and
positive,
it's kind of a decision that you have to make. But also, I had this conversation a few years with my girls where we were talking about sex, because we do talk about sex, you know, and they said, so you and Dad had sex twice.
Yeah. Because there are two children.
Yeah, exactly, two of them. So they're like, so twice. And I looked at them like, no, actually, we had sex many more times and we are still having sex. You know? And then they went like, we were on holiday and they said, did you have sex here? Like, and you know, and they started to wanting to know everything about it. But then I realized, and then the other funny question they said was, but if you had sex so many times, why are there not more children?
This is the same question to me.
Yeah,
same question.
Because obviously in their mind, sex was to make children, because that's what the system out there is telling us. So that's what they are believing. And then I took that opportunity, because it's about opportunities. Yes. So I took that opportunity and I said, no, sex is for pleasure. And we started to talk about pleasure.
But this is interesting because it's, as you say, and as we live it within our families, it's not. Of course, we can put sexuality or violence or whatever topic every day on the table, but that's not the way it works. It works with the opportunities, with the moments, and that's when you jump into it. And that's when you have the chance to really make a change. No? Because this is the daily life, and then you have this outside thing that you have to work on, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Now, as we have to change inside. If we don't change within our small lives, within the family context or relationship context, whatever, then there is not a real change,
Exactly,
I guess.
And sex is never a talk. It's never one talk. No, it's a discussion.
Yes.
It's out there. It's all the time. And then, I mean, there's great books. I got this book called 101 Questions for Kids about Sex, and it's a book by kids, and it's fantastic. And you know, the little one, she read all of it. She's like, she knows everything now, you know. But then she also has all these interesting questions all the time. So she went up to me and she said, "So if all penises are different, then what about twins?"
Anyone, such a good question here in the room? Here's one question, yes. Super question.
Hi. So I'm from Kazakhstan, and I have a story. In 2009, the film from Kazakhstan and it got like very good festival life. But in the film, there was like the first time when we see a naked woman having sex, and the girl after the film, she had like a completely nightmare because like everyone was following her, nobody wanted to marry her, the director got beaten up, like it was terrible. Like the government was trying to expel the guy from the country. Like I think the girl moved away from Kazakhstan, I don't know. And that was 2009, which was like 10 years ago. And I still think that nothing has changed because in cinema we don't see people even kissing. I had like my short film last year, and there was like a trailer of the film when two people laying on the bed, half dressed, hugging each other, and it was banned on a national TV because it was too much. And nothing happened, you know, like it wasn't even a sex scene. So like, I do believe that we want to explore intimacy in film. I do make films with people having sex on screen, but I feel if I do this in Kazakhstan, that would be so much responsibility for the actors, because even if they agreed to do it and they want to explore it with me, then like I cannot guarantee that they will be safe afterwards. And I'm surprised that you're talking about Spain, which is like such a liberal country, having some restrictions. But like, how would you, what would you advise on like protecting actors if you're shooting in a less liberal environment?
Right. I don't have much experience of shooting outside Europe. So it's legally, etc. It's difficult for me to answer how to work around that. One of the answers would be shoot it somewhere else. Get actors from other parts of the world who are willing to do it. And in general, I think that when we are talking about actors and sex situations, it's very important never to push them into doing something. You as a director or producer, you always have to be very responsible, like looking at their reactions. If you see that they are very reserved and they have many like questions around it, and they're like, but how is it gonna work, and am I gonna be able to wear a thong, and what will you shoot exactly, then maybe it's not the right person for that role. But it's so sad to hear what you are saying.
This is a bigger topic, because if you look now for the German films, we have this, every country can send one film for the Oscars. Yeah. So this year it's the new film out from Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck. It's about a very famous German painter, and the women have very little to do in this film. And basically, in the last hour, the main protagonist is either naked, for inspiration, for him, the painter, and beautiful coming down the stairs, or having the baby in her arms, also mostly naked, doing it. So I don't really feel covered. This is a very traditional, it's a fascist icon of women, of mothers. So this is, we are in 2019, and this one goes to the Oscars without,
Without a conversation, a discussion, a process.
Actually, one of our great journalists asked the director, of course, at his premiere in Venice, what's happening to this lady? Why are you describing her the way you're doing it in a 3-hour movie? And the only answer he had was, you don't like my work, and I know that. Yeah. Here we go. A very last question, or you can continue. I have to run to the screen to do the last premiere and Q&A.
How is it going? Is it going good?
How is it going with Irene?
Yeah.
Sindria?
Oh,
¿Qué te pareció?
I love it.
No, es una cosa.
Hablamos en castellano, entonces tú y yo aquí.
Hello. My name's Chevy. I'm from Los Angeles.
You're from Los Angeles, yeah.
I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm sorry for all the American problems we run into with censorship.
Oh, it's fine.
And I'm here to apologize. No, I want to know the original
Change
question.
the precedent, and we get rid of those values.
We can start here today to make a change. That's how we make change, right? Yeah. And because part of the world of technology allows us to connect, what is the hashtag? What do we, when we want to say something, when I want to make a comment, when I want to push change, what is the direction? We look to you, because obviously that's the way we can do it. And we can all use the same hashtag, all start the conversation wherever we come from and take it from here.
Tell me.
hashtag Erika Lust, hashtag sex positive.
What should we use?
Hashtag, yes.
Female pleasure matters. It's a good one, I think. It's a good one.
It's a very good one.
Yeah, female
put it
pleasure
on
matters. It's really important. And again, that's what we see. We see images all the time of women. Pleasure itself matters. So let's use both of them. Pleasure matters. Female pleasure matters.
Male pleasure matters
Male
too.
pleasure matters also a little. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
We
Our
already
pleasure matters. Kind of. Anyway, this is a very good idea.
Yep.
We can put it up and we will talk to Florian and ask him to spread the word at least today. And then everyone can get the hashtag. Very last question, comment, and then I think you are still here, aren't you? You are still here.
No, I think I
have
also
to run?
have an interview and I gotta, yeah. Okay.
Okay, now pressure here. This is pressure.
What do we do? We dance together?
Yeah, we're gonna dance.
We...
Anyway, actually, yes, that's what we're gonna do tonight. I'm gonna dance tonight in the Seelchen at 11.
The last question, maybe?
Here we go, yeah, because...
Okay, I just wanted to ask you because I'm going to shoot my first feature in a gay strip club in New York. And, you know, so how was for you just the very first time, you know, shooting with like a sex scenes also of the opposite sex? Like, I mean, between male, have you, like, what was for you, like, shooting the very first sex scene in your
gay
life?
scene.
Gay
Gay.
scene.
Oh,
Well,
my
sexy sex.
first gay scene.
Yes.
What is it like?
Yeah, that's what it was like.
Actually, I had a problem with my DOP, who didn't like the idea and who ran out of me. So I had a horrible experience to start with, but we found someone else and we got it made. I mean, when we're dealing with sexuality, it's not so different if it's two men or two women or a man and a woman or a group of many people. It's all about the same feelings in the end, and about consent and making sure that everybody knows what are the boundaries and what are the limits and what are we looking for. And then, you know, as a filmmaker, there's also the technical aspects. It's like, where do we have the good light? Where do I need
Which is always good. I mean, especially if you... I mean, talking about intimacy, having a coach, everything is fine, you know, and this is a very detailed, but it's also a very good way of put the techniques around and talk about the techniques and have them prepared, getting prepared, and you prepare the techniques, you know, in a certain way. It's also
And what
normal.
what I did was investigating. I was looking at gay porn. That's how, you know, I kind of learned what do I want to do, what kind of positions, what opportunities are there. It's finding references, even if it's sex, you know, even if you feel that porn is, you know, oh, porn, but you can find, you know, you can find good images there.
Absolutely, and you can find certain energy that is...
Inspiration.
Do some research, yeah.
Porn can be a wonderful resource.
Super last phrase, huh? I would say thank you so much, Erika, for an incredible, wonderful,
Thank you.
inspiring talk. Thank you.
I feel like we went to the gym. I'm like, woo!